After all you have sought, after all you have sacrificed, it ends in another stunning failure.
Yes everyone, it's time for a look back at one of the baddest dudes in gaming history, Kratos. But more specifically, we're going to look back on the guys who made Kratos all pissed off and mad in the first place, his enemies. Now there are plenty of memorable boss fights in all of the God of War games, so I decided to tackle the gigantic task of ranking these memorable encounters from not one or two, but all three of the main series God of War games. The top 10 best boss fights in the God of War series. While some are good, some were... yeah... all were gruesome and certainly memorable. I can only hope I do this justice. With a mediocre YouTube channel comes great responsibility. Let's do it. First up is the son of the big guy, the half-brother of our favourite anti-hero, slayer of the Nemean lion, Hercules. Whoa. This isn't the Hercules I remember as a kid. I guess puberty wasn't very kind to him. Egged on by Skeletor, Hercules is all pissy about something Kratos said to all the other girlfriends in Olympus. They talk about their feelings for a while, and eventually come to a warm, hugging embrace. Or maybe not. Hercules is armed with the very powerful Nemean cestus, weapons given to him after he defeated the Nemean lion, and apart from Kratos' Blades of Exile, they are definitely the most powerful and most useful weapons in God of War 3. After dispatching numerous weak and annoying enemies, Hercules springs into action. The only real way to hurt him is to wait for him to run at Kratos, and once overpowered, you have to drive him into the thorny vines and wail on him until you've worn him down and turned the tide in Kratos' favour. One thing's for certain, God of War 3 really did step up the gore and killings. I mean, bashing Hercules' face in with his own weapon is pretty brutal. I guess there's not going to be a reboot of the series. The Sisters of Fate are the main objective and, well, entire purpose of God of War 2. Because there's an absence of a DeLorean and flux capacitor, Kratos seeks out the Sisters of Fate, who control the threads of time so he can go back to the very moment Zeus betrayed him. And damn, the sisters aren't bad looking. Of course, I'm talking about these sisters, not whatever that thing is. Sexy. Fighting with the first sister is like playing a game of cat and mouse, where they are firing projectiles from a distance and Kratos using the grappling hooks around the arena to dodge them, and wait for the opportune moment to counterstrike. After negotiating what everyone's comfortable with, and deciding on a mutual setting, a three-way battle ensues, with the second sister showing up and transporting Kratos back to the past, to his very battle with Aries, where he must protect the very sword he used to slay the original God of War. The boss battle will always be memorable for me, not just because it's what God of War 2 has been building up to, but because it incorporates the environment very well, and I really did enjoy the trip down memory lane. Deep in the giant formidable Pandora's temple, which feels like you spend 90% of the first game in, lies a sleeping giant, half monster, half machine, a gigantic minotaur. Now Kratos only has to hang on for 8 seconds for this to actually count as a boss fight, but this bull certainly has no intention of playing ball. Ball. Pandoras Guardian is a great boss fight from the original God of War, because you can't just mash square triangle on it and win. You have to wait till it's hurt and dazed and hope you have enough time to climb up the platform and fire a burning log at the beast itself. And funnily enough, the monster doesn't really like this, and as a result becomes more vicious and violent as the battle goes on. That is until... no animals were hurt in the making of God of War, except a giant mechanical bull. And a giant scorpion. And a demon horse thingy. Kratos is a bad person. The king of the underworld, ruler of the damned, an all-round lovable nice guy with a heart of gold. While two of those things are true, One thing I want to know is, what the hell's happening in Greece? That is one botched up face job. After scraping through the underworld and breaking into Hades' house, with a quick stop off the Raiders' fridge, it's time to face the devil himself. He is armed with the claws of Hades, weapons capable of stealing a person's soul, and are very similar to Kratos' own Blades of Exile. After weakening Hades, Kratos literally hacks, slashes, and peels pieces of Hades' bodies, and then prevents them from returning. Hades Battles is one of my favourite boss fights because there are lots of different elements. It's not just the same button mashing throughout the battle. Hades uses chains and even the claws themselves to mix up the fight. I mean, both of them even destroy the arena and introduce the river Styx into the equation. After bashing in Hades' skull, Kratos uses Hades' own claws to steal his soul. Talk about brutal. Part of the tutorial of God of War 2 is the Colossus, probably one of the longest but enjoyable boss fights in the God of War series. Spanned over probably the first 25 minutes, half an hour of the game, the battle with the Colossus involves Kratos scaling buildings, tiptoeing over big drops, and we even have time for a bit of leisure. The battle itself is pretty good, with Kratos slicing off the Colossus' hands, blinding one of his eyes, and gouging into his face. So it ticks all the right boss fight boxes. Although I must say the battle with Kratos drains his godly powers into the Sword of Olympus is pretty boring, and not exactly my favourite part. But this is made up for the next part, where you actually cut your way into the Colossus and slowly destroy it from the inside out. Although it was a fantastic victory, Kratos does let it go to his head a little bit.
Gods of Olympus! Do you need more proof than this?
Just think, if he wasn't so cocky and up himself, we probably wouldn't have had the need for the next 2 or so games. Problem solved. So it comes to this, the point of the last 2 games, Kratos' final revenge. And although it is the final boss fight in the main series of God of War, it's not my favourite battle. No siree. And some very good reasons for this. Because Zeus is the big bad final boss fight, my expectations were so high that I think it would have been incredibly hard, if not impossible, to meet all of my expectations. I found the first part very limiting due to the narrow nature of the arena, and because of this I found Zeus's patterns predictable and very repetitive. The next stage of the battle in the outside arena is much better. The addition of Gaia is a nice one. And the battle inside of Gaia herself is really good. It's after this that my real problems with the final battle begin. First big thing is the whole soul searching. Through the darkness, following the light, it's boring. I know it ties together the whole story of Kratos' redemption and having the power to forgive himself and finding hope. But could it not have been just a little bit shorter? It seems to kill the tense mood of finally confronting Zeus. I don't know, call me weird, but I'm just not a big fan. But don't get me wrong guys, this is still an epic fight and worthy of its spot. Probably one everyone was expecting on the list, and fair enough too. Another very popular boss fight in the God of War series is Poseidon. Again, Poseidon is technically the tutorial in God of War 3, but what it does is set the bar and expectations very high for the rest of the game. It's like Poseidon's boss fight starts to show strong and says to the other gods, beat that, which of course, some don't. Destroying Poseidon's pet seahorse thingy is really satisfying, and weaving in, out, under, and all around Gaia is something quite special. And not many other boss fights in the series really captures the same environmental theme. Now let's talk about that final scene. Oh my god, what an awesome feeling. and hats off to the thinking behind creating this, because nothing makes Kratos feel more powerful than watching a helpless Poseidon scrambling towards the ocean, only to be pulled back and absolutely owned by one of the most gruesome deaths in the series. And that's saying something. While it's definitely not one of the hardest boss fights in the game, because it's part of the tutorial, it is one of my favourites. Much like this next one. Yep, it's another tutorial boss fight. And actually, it's the very first boss fight in the entire series. The debut of our pale anti-hero. Again, the fight against the Hydra is supposed to introduce people to the mechanics of the game, and it does this in a gripping and exciting way. To see a fleet of ships being completely decimated by the Hydra and its two heads is a fantastic intro to the first game and to the God of War series. It may not have the flash and pizzazz of later games, but the Hydra's boss battle has stood the test of time as one of the greats. Not only is the Hydra's boss fight one of the best, it also introduces us to one of the best reoccurring minor characters in the game. The poor old sea captain. Let's be honest, you wouldn't want the luck of our dear friend the sea captain. If only he was Irish.
Thank you! Thank the gods you came back for me!
I didn't come back for you.
Kratos.
Ah yes,
Returned
Aries,
even from
the
the
original
underworld.
God of War, the focus of Kratos' revenge in the first game. And I'd say, unlike the final battle with Zeus, Aries' boss fight certainly lives up to the hype. Now we know Aries is a fiery individual. I mean, the way he carries on, he is a real hothead. But now, in his defense, he's probably more strawberry blonde than anything. But hey, at least we know his soul. Here at Flapping Kiwi Gamer, we love people of all hair colours, shapes and sizes. We are no way hearist in any way, shape or form. Okay, in all seriousness, Ares' boss fight is epic, with Kratos opening Pandora's box and drawing upon the power to kill a god. All seems lost when Ares breaks Kratos down, mentally more than anything, by reliving the killing of his family. All seems lost for the ghost of Sparta, but it appears Olympus has one last gift for Kratos. One last roll of the dice, if you will. Having the one life bar for both Kratos and Ares is pretty cool and unique, and nothing feels quite as satisfying as driving your blade into the God of War and getting your vengeance once and for all. The big spot in this countdown is saved for the biggest guy in the God of War universe. He's played a part in all three games, and one thing's for sure, his boss fight is something special. Yep, the number one spot goes to the number one titan, Kronos. Now the big guy is not in a good mood, as he blames Kratos for the murder of Gaia, which is fair enough. Trying to squish this ghost of Sparta, Kratos must use the heat of Helios to blind Kronos, and then work his way up and around his body, dealing with enemies and Kronos trying to kill him. After some heart-racing moments, and I admit, a few deaths, Kronos ends up swallowing Kratos whole. I wonder if he tastes like chicken. But judging by Kronos' reaction, I'd say Kratos tastes like a pretty dodgy chicken. Using the blade of Olympus, Kratos slices an exit hole out of Kronos' side and then uses the Nemium Cestus to break Kronos' chains and drive the shattered spike through his chin and out the other side of his mouth. Ouch. With one last final blow, Kratos brings to the end not only the life of Kronos, but one of the most action-packed, gruesome, and most importantly, fun boss fights in the God of War series. Truly deserving of the top spot in the top 10 best boss fights in the God of War series.